Hi guys, as promised this week we are going to be making dirty fudge, and I call it dirty fudge because we're going to be using those lovely caramelised Lotus biscuits. We're going to be using white chocolate, we're going to be using condensed milk and a microwave. It's really easy, it's really quick and it's really simple, and it's a great way to start you trying out this new type of recipe. Right then, so ingredients. You're going to need a tin of condensed milk. I think these are 397 grams. I'm going to use the whole of that. 300 grams of white chocolate. This is Dr. Oetker, but I actually find that the Aldi one is the best one to use for this. It just tastes creamier. I just happen to have this in at the moment. We're going to use 300 grams of the Lotus Biscoff spread. You can use either the crunchy or the smooth. I just like having chunky bits in mine. So you're going to use the bulk of this because this is a 380 gram tub, and we're only going to use 300 grams. So it's an excuse for you to have 80 grams of deliciousness in your cupboard for later on. We're also going to use about 125 grams of the Lotus biscuits. Usually you can buy these in a supermarket. I just happen to have some of these in because they're individual, so I don't sit there and eat the entire box all at once. And you're also going to need 100 grams of icing sugar because that's going to help to thicken it up. Equipment. You can do this the long way, that has the bain-marie, so a little bit of water in the bottom, boil that up and then slowly melt things on the top. I'm showing you that's the setup. I'm not going to do that today because it's warm outside and I'd rather show you the quick and easy way of doing it, and most people do actually have a microwave, I found, in their house. I'm one of those strange people who only got one recently. You're also going to need a large bowl, wooden spoon and measuring scales. So fortunately most of this you can use the actual containers to do the measurements. There's very little measuring out that you need to do. Chocolate comes in 100, 150, 200 gram packs, so this one's 150, so I've got two of them, and I've already measured out 100 grams of the icing sugar just to make things easier. Now the first part you're going to do is you melt your chocolate. Now when I'm running a class, this is my favourite part because the most important part of sweet making is about finding time to relax, concentrate on something, create something wonderful, and above all else, get some of that frustration out. And I find that beating the chocolate into little bits at the start of a class is really good for venting all that excess frustration. Dead simple, dead great, break it all up. And, you know, you get to, it's very rare in life you get to actually smash things up legitimately without someone getting quite upset about it. So, in my opinion, take the opportunity to do it whenever you can. So, when you've completely smashed up your white chocolate, make it small, we're going to microwave it in 10-second bursts on high. You don't want to do it too much because otherwise your chocolate will get really, really hot. You want to do it gradually. If you were doing this in a bain-marie, it would be more of a gradual melting anyway. But if you're going to do this home, nice, quick and easy, nice and safe for if you're doing this with some of your kids, then I suggest 10-second burst, give it a stir. 10-second burst, give it a stir. So this is just after 30 seconds. As you can see, it's starting to melt. We're going to keep going until it's a lot more gooey than that. So after a minute, this is quite well melted, and you can see that there's still some little lumps in there. But rather than carry on heating it, smush it down with your spoon, because then you're not going to overheat the white chocolate. And as you see, just by beating that in a little bit, you'll get rid of all the excess lumps. But it's not going to boil your chocolate up, so it's not going to make it bitter in any way, shape or form. I found when making fudge that white chocolate tends to set quite well. You can do it with other ones, but there's a different way of doing it to make it set better with actually melting down the sugar, so I'm going to show you that in a different video. Once you've melted all the chocolate, if you're doing this in the microwave, you add in your can of condensed milk and the 300 grams of the Biscoff spread. If you were doing this in a bain-marie, what you do is you'd put it all in together and melt it down so it combines. But I wanted to do it this way because I thought it's just easier, you know, it's less faffing around, and sometimes you just want to make a sweet without making a whole load of mess, and take it from one who usually makes a lot of mess. So 300 grams, I need about a quarter of a jar left at the end. So let's put that in. Put more in. And this is like the main flavouring. So I've just put like 3 large tablespoons in, as you can see. And there's about 100 grams left in the bottom of that. Mostly, sweet making is quite a precise thing, but for stuff like this, because it's mainly a flavouring that you're using, you can get away with quite a lot. Now I'm going to stir that in, and hopefully the Biscoff won't need any extra heating, but if it does, I'll just zap it in the microwave for a couple of seconds just to help it combine in. It's actually quite soft. If you've kept your biscuit spread in the fridge, this would be a lot more difficult, but as you can see, it's already combining quite well. The next thing to help you with catharsis is smashing up your biscuits. So you need about 125 grams of biscuit, or about 10 Lotus biscuits, just as an approximate, and then you just need to break them up into little bits. You can just roll them out, you can smack them, if you like them chunky, keep them chunky. You can have it any way you want. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like smaller pieces, larger pieces. If you like it really fine, then roll out like this. But if you want to kind of bite into the fudge and like have a chunk of biscuit in there, then leave some larger pieces in there, because basically you're just going to stir them in and put them over the top at the end. Also, when you prep, make sure you've got a tin and you've put your wrapping in there, because again, this is what's going to go into it. This is when I get messy. So I've stirred in the Biscoff, the condensed milk and the white chocolate together. Now we're going to add in the icing sugar, because this is going to thicken it up. Once I've beat that in, I'm going to stir in the biscuits that we've pre-prepped. They're these wonderful things, and put it in the tin, and we're going to leave it for a couple of hours to set. I suggest you add your icing sugar incrementally, because every time I've done it in one goose, what happens is you end up with a massive puff of white icing sugar all over your face, and it goes everywhere. Whereas if you do it little bit by little bit, you don't end up smacking yourself in the face with icing sugar, which sounds great, but it really isn't. To avoid lumps in your fudge, if you sieve your icing sugar, any bakers will know this, you don't end up with the chunky bits, and then you can like knead in the final lumps at the end. It depends how long you've had your icing sugar, to be honest. It tends to be less lumpy if it's brand new. Once you've combined all the icing sugar and you've got rid of that glossiness, you want to pour in about half your biscuits, however much you've crumbled them, and just stir them into the mix, so that no matter what bite you'll get some biscuit in it. And once you've combined that properly, tip it into your tray and complete it with some biscuits on top. So, mixed it all in, pushed it all down into the tin, made it nice and deep. I quite like chunky fudge, so that's why we've done it like this. And then with the remaining biscuit, we're just gonna tip that over the top. get a spoon and just brush it over to give it a nice topping. All over the top. And then we're going to leave it in the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours to set, and it'll go nice and solid. And there you have it. Nice, quick, easy, dirty fudge. It is worth noting that if you're not a big fan of Lotus biscuits, there's quite a few different spreads out there. So I've seen some bourbon ones, some custard cream ones. They're all usually where the honey and the jams are kept. You can use exactly the same for any of those and then just substitute the biscuits in that you like. It's really quick and easy. It doesn't require you losing flame or using sugar, so it's quite a safe one to do with the family. And to be honest, it's a really nice one just to give out as presents and gifts at Christmas and birthdays as well, because it's you just create a lot with it. As soon as the fudge is set, I will show you what it looks like, and I hope you enjoy. We'll figure out what we're going to do next week. Thank you very much. See you later.